Welcome. Welcome. Thank you all for coming to tonight's event. Before we get started, we pause to acknowledge that Santa Clara University sits on the land of the Ohlone and the Muwekma Ohlone people. We trace their ancestry through the Mission Dolores, Santa Clara, and San Jose. We remember their connection to this region and give thanks for the opportunity to live, work, and pray on their traditional homeland. Let's take a moment of silence to pay respects to their elders and all the Ohlone people, past and present. Now, tonight is a very special night, so I welcome you all. Thank you for your attendance. I am Michael Awashima, the founder of AI Collaborate, the club that is hosting tonight's event. Now, tonight is historic. Never has there been an AI summit at Santa Clara University. And further, never has there been such a major collaboration between the organizations at Santa Clara University with respect to AI. I believe tonight marks the beginning of a new era in which Santa Clara University becomes the inventors and the leaders in this space of AI, artificial intelligence. Now, why Santa Clara University? Well, Santa Clara University brings the world's most eager talents, people who really want to make an impact on this world, not just staying at home inside their own little bubble, meeting status quo. No, we come here to the heart of Silicon Valley because we know that we get one shot to change the world in the way that we envision. And we come here to take that shot. On top of that, Santa Clara University instills good ethical decision-making into its students. If we don't bound our decisions by moral values, an environment of distrust and conflict will be developed, and an external organization based on collaboration will simply overtake us. And like that, Silicon Valley will turn to dust. Trustable, collaborative exploration of this unknown is why Santa Clara University will become the leaders in this space. Now, to all the students in the audience tonight, if your dream is to make a real impact, carving your own path, and not just following the boring same path that most students go, come to AI Collaborate. I can tell you, there's not a single person in my club that is not a pioneer. And I know this because I have met every single member part of AI Collaborate personally. We push our students to think for themselves in the real world, not just solving some textbook problem that has preset solutions, or just simply reading a case study that will have no impact on. So come to AI Collaborate to meet like-minded people who really want to make an impact. Finally, I want to give my admiration and gratitude to everyone and every organization who supported AI Collaborate. I want to start with the Diversity and Student Center, led by Ricardo Padilla, who has been amazing support for our students. And I can tell you that Ricardo Padilla is one of the most passionate people here at Santa Clara University for supporting students and helping us succeed. I next want to thank Maria Carini, who was our former faculty advisor, who has again supported us a lot and has been there since pretty much the onset of this club. I want to next thank President Sullivan for all of her support for our club, as well as allowing and creating an environment in which students can really grow into their own and become leaders however they choose to do so. Finally, or not finally, but I want to thank all of the sponsors for tonight's event as well. The Career Center, the Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship, and the Sioka Center. And I especially want to thank the Sioka Center because not only are they the reason why we have delicious food over there for you guys to eat later, but they've also helped support multiple student-led projects and various AI Collaborate events. So thank you very much. Finally, I want to thank all the wonderful panelists who have taken time out of their very, very busy lives. These people cost maybe a couple $1,000s per hour, probably more. And they're coming here for free because they're passionate. They want to have this discussion about AI in the future. So thank you very much, and we welcome you to this future hub of invention and leadership. Thank you all. I truly hope you enjoy tonight's event. I will now pass the mic to Chris Norris, who is the Executive Director of the Vśioku Center. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. It's great to see all of you here. I'm Chris Norris. I'm Executive Director of Vśioku Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. I've been at Santa Clara for 6 years, and so I spent most of my career, all of it, in industry here in Silicon Valley. What the center does is we try to help students find ways to think like an entrepreneur, to develop a sense of empathy, to see problems as opportunities, not just barriers, willingness to take risk and the tools to manage risk, and then an awareness of value creation. Did your efforts make any difference? And so we do that through programs that have nothing to do with starting companies, and we do it through programs that have everything to do with starting companies, because being an entrepreneur and thinking like an entrepreneur is everywhere. It's a life skill. And so I'm not going to spend a lot more time talking about that, but 36 years ago or so, I was literally on this spot learning about AI because I was super excited about this emerging trend. And I was working on my master's in computer engineering at Santa Clara University. And the building that was here, where this one is now, was where a lot of the engineering classes were held. So I was studying Lisp and Prolog and a bunch of algorithmic stuff, trying to learn about, okay, AI is coming and I need to be part of it. And then it never really came. Years go by, like 35 years ago. It doesn't seem that long to me, but it's legitimately a long time. And in my Business 70 class, that is an introduction to business that we teach for all the incoming business students, and then it's open to anybody else who wants to take it. So minor pitch, if you want to learn anything about business, it's absolutely just the most amazing course you can take. Tons of sections offered every quarter. You should definitely factor it in somewhere in your college career. Anyhow, we talk about what are the coming trends for technology, especially with the context of Silicon Valley. And lately, we've been trying to figure out, is it crypto, or is it blockchain, or is it the two of those together? Is it machine learning? Is it the cloud? But I think when you see something that supplants like every part of your life, or you can envision it supplanting every part of your life, and then you all of a sudden read about people at Google getting Nobel Prizes for the work they've done in that area, you know this is the next wave, that it has arrived. It is AI, and it's going to touch all of us. You can ask any of your faculty how they're designing their tests right now, and I guarantee you there isn't a single one of them at this university that isn't like scratching their head figuring out how do I deliver content, help you learn and assess in a world of AI. So it's here. This is the moment, and so I'm pleased to have been some small part of it. And Vśioku Center has been a small part of it. What we try to do is look for energized students and open a few doors for them if we can, provide a little funding, introduce them to people, and the best results usually come just organically that way. But we never know which ones are going to take off. And so this has been one of those. I first met Mike a year or more ago, and we talked about potentially having a speaker on campus, and then a little bit about an AI club. And we provided, I think, a few lunches for a kickoff for the club, and it's just grown and grown. And then we've had mindset scholars, Sean, for example, Sean Wu, one of our folks in our program. That what we try to teach is like, just if you want to go do something, just go do it. Be an active part of your education. You don't have to just sit here and have it delivered to you, right? Be part of it. Change it. If you want it to be delivered a certain way, you want to experience certain things, just go make it happen and knock on doors. And Sean's a great example of that, and all the folks in AI Collaborate, I think, have demonstrated that with what we're seeing today. So I all I can say is we came across some seats and poured some water on it, and this is what happened. So I'm super happy to be part of that. Okay, so one last little bit. Even though I've known Santa Clara for a long time, I never appreciated it until I really started to work here and understand like what a unique culture it has, what a unique sense of community, what a unique sense of shared vision. And I never fully appreciated the teachings of Catholicism and the Jesuit faith on this topic, but there's this thing that you've probably all heard called cura personalis, which means educating, what means caring for the, literally in Latin means caring for the entire person. And so we translate it to be educating the whole person and that sort of thing. But the Jesuit version of it is caring for the whole community. And so I think it's like absolutely fabulous that we're here at Santa Clara, an institution that's built on that concept, talking about AI, because it's going to touch every one of us, and the way it touches us is not going to all be good. And so I think it's important to have conversations about how do we amplify the good and how do we mitigate the bad. So I can talk and talk, but I'm going to stop. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here. I love Santa Clara. I love these kind of events. Super excited to be here on this journey with you. And I will hand it back to I guess I'm handing it to Julie. Julie Goldman, President and
Thank you, Chris. So as Chris said, I'm Julie Sullivan. I'm in the third year as president of Santa Clara University. And you've just seen why I'd love to work at Santa Clara. Because we have wonderful students and we have wonderful faculty and staff. They are extremely talented and they do care about other people and about this world and what we can do to make it better for all. And what we can do to make this common home, our planet, healthier for all. So thank you all for being here, whether you're part of the Santa Clara community or a friend in the Santa Clara community invited you. We're delighted that you're here. I'm very grateful to AI Collaborate, the students that have organized this event. I'm thrilled to be able to be here and share it with you. And I'm very grateful for the panelists that are here to learn with us and share with us. So it promises to be a great evening. Let me say a little bit about our students. And then I'd like to share with you a little bit about what we're already doing in the AI space and what our next dreams are. So our students. The students in AI Collaborate and across the campus. Our students are very talented. And they are talented in a variety of ways, but they are very talented. And they have aspirations to be at the forefront of understanding and leading the world in the responsible and human-centered use of AI and other emerging technologies. They know this is changing the world, and they want to be the leaders that help make it happen in humanity's best interest. You'll see they have a breadth and depth of perspectives. AI Collaborate has been very intentional since it was founded 2 years ago in attracting students from all different disciplines across our university, because they realize that the types of problems that make a difference in the world require varied perspectives to really understand them and find useful solutions. So these are students that are dedicated to determining how AI in the technologies of the future can positively contribute to human productivity and to human flourishing. So how can AI and other technologies contribute to solutions that will advance the common good for all of humanity and will help us improve and sustain the health of our planet? So AI Collaborate is probably the most active student activity we have going on with AI at the moment. But there are other things happening at this university. We pride ourselves of being the Jesuit University in Silicon Valley, which means we are about the whole person. We are about ethics. We are about responsibility, accountability, and integrity. But at the same time, we're about innovation and creation of new knowledge. So just this quarter, we launched a responsible AI minor for all of our undergraduate students. It's an interdisciplinary minor. Any student in any major or majors can minor in responsible AI. And the minor consists of course offerings, of course in engineering, but also in philosophy, in communications, in English, in sociology, in history. So it's a very broad-based minor. And I hope that some of you are not already in it, you'll check it out. We also have a research group of faculty connecting we have 6 schools and colleges at this university, and we have faculty in every school and college that is doing research related to AI. Most of our faculty's research is about real-world problems, and AI is at the center of a lot of real-world opportunities and challenges. So we have a faculty group called AI Squared that connects faculty across our campus that are doing AI-related research. We have a report that's just been done by faculty across our campus, started in the School of Education, but also included faculty in engineering and even in the Jesuit School of Theology, and it was commissioned by the Vatican. The Vatican asked Santa Clara University, because we are the Jesuit University in Silicon Valley, to write the report that they are going to be distributing in November to bishops from all around the world for them to take back to their Catholic K through 12 teachers. And the report is on the opportunities and risks of AI in K through 12 classrooms around the world. You see, the church is trying to figure out how they can make quality education more accessible in countries where it is less accessible, and how can AI play a positive role. So we're doing many things. We have many AI conferences that are sponsored by our various schools and colleges. This is the first student-sponsored event, so I'm particularly proud of this one. I don't think it's the last, but it's the first. But our dream is, and I hope this dream will be fulfilled in the near future, is to have an AI institute, an AI we can trust institute. You see, in universities, we create institutes when there's an issue that is central to our mission. So, for example, we have the Sioka Center. This is about entrepreneurship. We have the Miller Center for Social Entrepreneurship, about social entrepreneurship. Both of those are about our emphasis on innovation and creation that will help the world. We also have a Markla Center in Applied Ethics, about our commitment to ethics and integrity. And we have an Ignatian Center for Jesuit education. How about an AI center or institute? AI crosses every discipline in our university. We would like a university-wide center or institute that can continue to catalyze the teaching, the research, and the external partnerships we have for our faculty, staff, and students as a university. So much more to come, because I think the Jesuit University in Silicon Valley needs to play a leading role in the future of AI, and our students need to be the leaders in that future. So thank you again for coming. I look forward to an interesting discussion with our panelists. Thank you.
All right, let's get this show on the road then. So, for our first conductor of conversation, we'll have Sean Wu. Now, Sean is a sophomore computer science major, machine learning researcher, and 3-time startup founder whose work is deployed in the IRS, Citibank, and Lockheed Martin. Sean serves as one of the vice presidents of AI Collaborate. So, let's give him a warm welcome. A lot more as well.
Okay, hey y'all. I'm about to start the introductions for our first panel. So, first, for our first panelist, he is the creator of Adobe Express, now Adobe's Vice President of Developer Platforms and Partner Ecosystem, and the co-lead for AI at Adobe, which governs how the company's employees use its AI, Aubrey Cattell. Up next, we have one of the earliest founding leaders of Zoom, taking multiple tech products from incubation to the #1 market leadership globally. Former Zoom Chief Customer Officer, now venture partner at Fellows Fund, Nick Chong. Next, formerly Harvard Ethics Fellow and lecturer, her words and impact span across bioethics, technology ethics, social and political philosophy. Now, Santa Clara University professor, Susan Kennedy. Last, but certainly not least, the former Chief Revenue Officer of Solar City, later Tesla Energy President, the right-hand man of Elon Musk, founder of CruzFoam, 11 years Stanford entrepreneur lecturer, and managing 3 multi-billion-dollar businesses. Now onto his own stealth AI startup, Toby Corey.
Testing. Good group.
Love the crowd today. Great energy. So, with our first question today, oh wait, by the way, first, just how this panel will work. We're going to have about 40 minutes of discussions, and if you guys have questions, hold it still, because in the last 20 minutes, we're going to be opening up for audience to ask some Q&A session. So, all right. With the first question, with hundreds of billions invested into AI this year, AI has become a buzzword. So for you guys, how do you see AI delivering tangible value that justifies these investments?
I'll start. Super bashful here. So let me put this into perspective. You're living at an amazing time, like one of probably the best times of our species. So take the invention of fire, the invention of the wheel, the invention of the printing press, the Industrial Revolution, the information age, add that together, multiply that times 10, that's what we're looking at with artificial intelligence. It is the most epic technology to ever impact humanity. Its power is so deep, not only at the consumer level, reaching all the way back down into businesses, infrastructure, everything that we do in life. So it's just a massive opportunity for you as students at this time. What do investors see? They want to make money. So I think just the opportunity at this time to see this kind of transformational shift is epic.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm an alumni here, so yeah, go Broncos, yeah. So, you know, I mean, from a very practical perspective, right, I was running all the customer experience at Zoom. I mean, you guys call into, you know, call centers all the time. There are many practical applications across this industry, especially related to customer experience, right? Think about the productivity and the automation that can be done there. Think about the level of automation beyond just the first level to the technology underneath it that we can do to implement it. And then on top of that, really the whole cycle of how you will interact in the future with any call centers and support centers will change. And that's why I think there's some true effects of how, you know, the dollars have expanded that will really spread across, you know, logistics, manufacturing, and customer experience. Those are big market segments.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Toby and Nick. I mean, I work for Adobe, so we have 2 big businesses, right? One is around serving creativity and creative professionals, and the other is around marketing and experiences. And when you think about both of those, I mean, the whole landscape of how you create content is changing, because it's going from, you know, you're learning applications like Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere and InDesign, and now we're infusing those with generative AI. And ideally, we're doing that in a way that removes the mundane tasks and makes those faster and allows your creativity to shine through. Same goes for marketing. I mean, we all see ads every day, but imagine a future where every ad you see is so hyper-personalized that it ceases to seem like an ad and instead becomes content that's just for you. And that's really the future we're looking at. But when I think about Sean's question and whether all the investment is warranted, I would be remiss if I didn't note that we're probably pretty close to what Gardner calls the peak of the hype cycle. And that's okay. I mean, I had an old boss who used to always say he was pessimistic about the present, but optimistic about the future. And so even if it seems like things are changing so fast and invariably there's going to be some things that don't work, I agree with where Toby started that, you know, we're just seeing a paradigm shift that is going to dwarf everything that's come before.
So I want to touch on this hype cycle because I think that's absolutely right. I do think we're reaching the sort of peak of the hype cycle, and this isn't the first time that we've had a hype cycle with AI and then it doesn't quite meet expectations. But even if there's a sort of drop off from where we are now, I think there's still going to be a plateau where we end up somewhere in the middle. And I think the thing that really excites me and that makes me feel like there's something different happening this time with the excitement around AI is the way that there's democratized access to AI. So the fact that people with little to no programming skills are able to access these platforms and develop applications. We have pre-built models, so you're not having to do everything from scratch. And we have way more educational resources this time around that makes it a possibility for people around the world to get their hands on starting something with AI. And so I think that's probably one of the big differences. I think we'll see the tangible value of that. Whether it's totally justified all of the investments, I don't know. But I do think there's something different about what's happening with AI right now.
Let me add one more thing on top of that, because it brings me back. I was at this back in the early 90s. I was running this billion-dollar business at this company called Novell. It was a time when none of you were born. We had these things called network operating systems that connected PCs together and corporations together. And I remember downloading my first web browser and reading about Tim Berners-Lee, about this really simple technology, HTML. And went on to create the world's largest web development company and took it public in a matter of 3 years from founding the company, $1 billion in revenue, 5,000 employees operating in 17 countries around the world. But the point is that I remember talking to CEOs and them asking me like, oh, is this going to be a fad like a fax machine? And just look at the impact of the internet and then by extension, mobile computing. And I remember making a prediction that half the Fortune 500 will be swapped out within 5 years from 1997. It was actually like 60%. Amazon wasn't around at that time. Salesforce wasn't around. eBay, the list goes on and on. You saw great companies like Adobe, Zoom, that took advantage of this shift. People aren't buying newspapers anymore. Just look what it's done to media. It's changed the world, and this is larger than that.
Nick, I'd like to hear your perspective on this, because drawing from your perspectives as Zoom's Chief Customer Officer and also a venture partner now at Phillips Fund, where do you see AI create the most value, at least in the near future? And what emerging AI startups or technologies have caught your attention, and how do they address current market needs?
Yeah, so, I mean, like everyone here said, right, this opportunity is pretty vast, right? I mean, likewise, when the web was created, right, there was huge waves of web programs and websites, right? Of course, we had the .com bust as well, but, there was, winners and it changed everything. I think likewise with AI, right, there is a rush. I mean, there will be some casualties, but I think across the board, we'll see changes that will have, big impact on the way we will live in the future. In my perspective, I look at 3 areas which is of my interest, largely because of my experience. One is around customer experience. I feel like there are a lot of ways we can do a lot better. How many of you actually talk to a call center or a chatbot in 30 seconds, you hang up and say, this is not good, right? And how many agents out there are trying to help you guys, but they don't have the tools and the technology to do well, to really help you, right? So there are a lot of things around there. The second is really around robotics. I think I'm really keen. I feel like, we've seen robotics across many generations, but with the advent of AI and robotics, I think there's a new wave of intelligence and a way of implementations that would be much more capable at the device or the end level of the robotics than just the brain, right? So there's a lot more coming on there. Last but not least, my passion has always been with education. So I'm, my philanthropy cycle right now is all education. I think there's a lot of AI work that can be done in helping you, your next generation, your future kids, to learn, to live, and to lead a better society.
And speaking of applications, Aubrey, I know Adobe has been at the forefront of a lot of the generative AI applications, models like Firefly, and a range of creative products. Can you share some of these unique challenges and considerations you might have faced while developing these Gen AI models and products, and particularly regarding issues like copyright and authenticity?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just as background, so Adobe Firefly is our family of generative AI models. So it's everything from text to image to text to design that has topography built in text to video, right? It really is our reimagining of how you can create all manner of digital content. And so when we started this, I mean, one of the things that we set out in the beginning was a set of principles, right? How are we going to go about doing this in a responsible way, in a transparent way, in an accountable way to all of our stakeholders, not only our employees and our customers, but our investors in the creative community at large. And so, some of those principles are things like, in the way that we're building Firefly, we're not going to train on our customers' data. Or if we are, it's going to be only with their permission, and we're going to make sure that we're fairly compensating artists, right? And so those principles are really important to how we've built out Firefly. Another challenge I think that exists is, we're living in an era of deepfakes, and I think it's pretty scary, some of the things that you can see out there. So an initiative that we launched is something called the Content Authenticity Initiative. And we have a technology called content credentials. And really what that is think of it as just the provenance of any digital content you see, right? Who created it? When did they create it? What tool did they use? And all of that is basically embedded into the content metadata in a tamper-proof way. That's our way of really combating, what's happening in the industry now. And we now have over 3,000 members as part of that. It's a broader initiative and consortium that just goes beyond what Adobe itself can do. So those are some of the things that we're thinking about.
Yeah, and I think this also pertains to a lot of the Zoom's internal initiatives. As deepfake technologies become more sophisticated, how Zoom working to maintain a trust in digital interactions, and what measures are you developing to detect or even prevent the misuse of synthetic media in video calls, and especially for high-stakes communications?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, I've just recently left Zoom, so I can't speak like a spokesperson for Zoom, but as far as I know, across technology, whether it's real-time video communications or, voice communications, right? There will be deepfakes, right? You guys have seen probably circulated across social medias of the elections and stuff like that are happening, right? So when it comes to deepfakes, there are two sides of it. There's a creation side of it. If you are providing a technology that creates avatar, right? Zoom today just announced the AI companion avatars that allows you to sort of represent yourself and present out, in meetings or in clips of a version of yourself going out, right? So, but there must be technology underneath it to hold it responsible, right? You've got more advanced authentication. You've watermarking, as Aubrey mentioned here. You have detection technologies underneath it. So you must embrace those technologies to help from a creation piece of the avatars, right? To do, to prevent deepfakes use in a bad manner. The other piece is obviously the recipient, right? You guys are the recipient of another side of the equation, right? There will be hopefully labels around, right? Kind of like nutritional label. They might be like, here's a generated avatars, and you guys should be educated around when you look at the video of a person, the background, the lighting, the shadows, the audio, this doesn't look real, right? Similar to how you would look at, spams and scams today, right? So you need to be educated on that as well. So there are ways you're going to have to, make sure that the creation of technologies and the recipient can manage deepfakes in both arenas. Does that make sense? Yeah?
And I think this leads naturally a little bit into the ethics side of things. So Susan specifically, and I hope everyone can jump in a bit as well. How can companies balance ethical concerns, with the pressure really to innovate and scale quickly, especially in the competitive AI arena? And can you provide some specific strategies and examples of successful collaborations between ethicists, technologies, and business leaders in addressing these challenges?
Great question. So I think it's unfortunate that a lot of times it seems like ethics is in conflict or in tension with innovation, because I don't see it that way, and I don't think it has to be that way. So one example is the EU when they changed their energy label a few years ago. That sparked a ton of innovation. It ended up being something that drove innovation, not stifled it or reined it back in. And even when you hear Aubrey describe what's happening at Adobe, I think that's the sort of mindset to take, where ethics is a commitment you have from the start. And in that sense, it's not another thing on the checklist that maybe stands in the way of something else you want to do. Instead, it's a process, it's a mindset that informs how you're going to go about your project. And so I think there's lots of really exciting developments that shows us that this is possible and fruitful. I think lots of big companies have a commitment to ethics because they see that as part of a smart business strategy where it actually aligns with their long-term interests to prioritize ethics. And we're seeing lots of toolkits and things come out, which is really cool because that's accessible for everyone. So you have things like IBM Fairness 360 or Google's What If tool, so you can try different sort of fairness optimizations. And then you also see projects like Google, like Project Euphonia. They're not just building an application for a community, they're building it with that community. So people who have impaired speech, they want to figure out how they can make AI that has voice recognition work better for them. But they're not just making assumptions about who these people are, they're actually building it with them. So I think there's lots of ways, it's not even just working with ethicists, it's working with communities and sort of expanding and making that participation much broader. And I think those are really exciting developments.
Yeah, I want to build on that. I mean, I think when we think about ethics, it's not this thing on the side and a check. It's very much built into the purpose and the what we see as our mission with our customers. So, when we take generative AI, it's not a replacement for human creativity. We're trying to build it into our products in an intelligent way so that it works with your creativity in our apps, right? If you're in Photoshop and you want to remove the background and then you want to generate the fill around that, that works alongside of things that you're doing in terms of, creating layers or masks on top of that and creating the image that really exists in your mind's eye. And so, our approach really has been, and I think when you think about that community of practice, we're trying to empower our customers, not disintermediate them or set them aside. And so we also are thoughtful about, the types of new algorithms that we're introducing, the way that we're training that data, the respect that, again, we want to have for IP, right? We're not scraping the internet trying to do this. We're trying to make sure that, we actually have permission and consent. And that's different from the way other companies are doing business. And I think as a result, we see it in the way our customers embrace our approach. So having that ethical approach is actually good for our customers, which means it's good for our bottom line.
Yeah, I think to add on to that too, it all starts with leadership and the culture of the company, right? That's going to drive the entire paradigm of behavior within that organization. And then underneath that really falls in how is performance measured in the company? This is really powerful technology. Is it open? Is it transparent? Do you know what the model's doing, how it's accessed? And that has to thread through the organization. How's compensation associated with as well? And I think of it almost similar to, in the sustainable area, you have Benefit Corp and B Corps, and sort of thinking it along those lines, which operate with a certain set of ethics and principles of how they run their business, what kind of supply chains they interact with. And I think this similar trend here is going to be really critically important.
Yeah, but there is a big part of it is new, right? If you look at many corporations, right? It's something new for the C-suite, something new for the mid-manager levels, and of course all the employees. So there's a lot of education to be taught. There's a lot of drive around. When you do things, how do you do it, right? And you have a global set of employees. We have people around the world, right? How do you get that message across as well, right? Is easy here? What about people in Manila, right? How do you do that? So it is a challenge, don't get me wrong, but I think, companies that hold the value, that have leadership support, and, make an effort to do that can be done, right? But it is a huge undertaking. It is new.
Yeah, and I know many of you are either leading or have led companies. I'm wondering, I guess, how do you envision AI influencing the future of work? And also, what role should businesses play in reskilling or upskilling their employees for an AI-driven future?
I mean, I'll go first. So I run the developer platform at Adobe, but my side hustle is I'm part of one of the co-chairs for AI at Adobe, which is how we are deploying generative AI solutions inside Adobe to our employees. And so, take the builder track, which is all of our product managers, designers, engineers. Well, we've rolled out GitHub Copilot, right? And so that's been a huge advantage, and we have about 50% of the engineers across the company using it now, right? And we're going from a year where I think we wanted to drive usage and more experimentation. But as we shift to 2025, we're really going to be focused on what kind of impact is the solution having for them. So, lines of code committed and completion acceptance rate, right? We have OKRs now that track the business impact that these solutions are having. And it's not limited to just engineers, right? The sales team who I met with the other day, right? I mean, they're using AI, frankly, in the way you should all be using AI to get a job, which is they're sending out automated emails, right, to their contacts. When they get a hit on that, they're using AI to schedule the meeting. After they've successfully closed the deal, they're using AI to identify where there's upsell opportunities or renewal opportunities, and then doing that. And by the way, we're also tracking employee satisfaction with this tool, and like 50% of the salespeople survey are either moderately or very satisfied with the way Gen AI makes their job better, right? And so, the thing I'd say is, and Jessica said this, I think it's less about reskilling, it's more about just getting people to use it, because if you can write a prompt, you can use the solution.
Yeah, that's a really important point, Aubrey. I'm at CruzFoam. We've developed a biodegradable, compostable replacement for both styrofoam and expanded polyethylene. So you get something in the mail, usually it's got some foam that protects it, so when it drops, the G-force doesn't destroy that item that you're buying. Of course, those materials today, they sit in landfill for hundreds of years. They're in our waterways. They're not, these microplastics are in our lungs right now. But selling a novel material that cost a little bit more is really challenging to do. And without AI, there's no way we'd be making the kind of impact that we're really understanding, okay, customers look like this size, this type of product, this type of industry. We're using several AI tools today in all of our forward biz dev development work. So it's critical.
Funny enough, when it comes to skilling, I'm sure you guys are all using ChatGPT for your homework, right? I mean, don't say no. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and they use Grammarly, they use ChatGPTs, and then I don't know what else they use for math tutoring. Seems like they are skilling themselves naturally without me educating them. So I think in the same skill at the workforce, right, I think you will have folks that will upskill themselves very quickly just by naturally adopting the learning along with it. And so are we are learning along with it as well. But I think it's a very natural tendency along the way. Now, of course, there are more advanced tools, that will help along the way, but naturally they will all start picking it up very naturally.
Yeah, and Susan, I know that AI, many people are learning about AI, and I guess accessibility is going to be one of the main concerns moving forward. And I guess when AI-driven automation is expected to displace a number of jobs in the coming years, what ethical obligations do you think tech companies and governments have in managing the broader social impact of this disruption, and also beyond just the economic consequences?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be one of those all hands on deck sort of problems. I mean, yes, businesses are going to have a role to play, but one key problem is responsibility and accountability. If we really do get to the point where we have AI that's fully automating a process, well, what happens when things go wrong and there's a mistake? Who do we hold accountable? Who's responsible for that? And it's much easier to answer when we don't have fully automated processes, but once AI gets sort of into the picture, it becomes a lot harder to do that. And so I think we're going to need policies and regulations that start coming down the line to clarify some of these things, because right now it kind of feels like a Wild West with AI development. And we do have some examples to follow. The EU's been really proactive in coming up with regulations, but I think that's going to be one of the things. We're going to need researchers to really study the societal impacts. If it's beyond economic consequences, we have a lot of questions, and that's not any one domain that has sort of control over that. I think we're going to need people from all sorts of disciplines: sociology, anthropology, computer science, engineering, philosophy. All of these are going to be really important in being able to answer these questions. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of work to be done, but we don't want to make the mistake of thinking it's just businesses or just government. I mean, I think this is a lot of people have a role to play in figuring out what that future is going to look like and how to make it a future that we want to have.
And Aubrey, as you are, I guess, grappling with implementing AI in Adobe internally, what are some key considerations that you've thought about? And then also, how are you addressing concerns about the AI on human creativity and also the potential for misuse of these powerful technologies?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on that earlier a little bit, right? So in terms of human creativity, I mean, we don't see AI as a replacement for human creativity. Rather, it's a tool in the service of human creativity. And I think that's so important. That's why we're not just creating generative AI, we're integrating it into our tools and suite of products so that users can access them where they already are and bring together their human ingenuity together with the new technology. In terms of the potential for misuse, I mean, again, I come back to thinking, I don't think it's just one issue. I think there's a lot of things to think about ethically, but I do think understanding, the nutrition labels on content, right? Like, where did this come from? Who made it? What is it going to do to me? I think we need to understand that better. And then, inside, I definitely think we're having a conversation around, what does the future look like for employees as they adopt generative AI, right? With AI at Adobe, we're rolling it out internally. And for every person who's excited about the potential, there's probably one who has misgivings. Like, what is this going to mean for my job longer term? I mean, you guys are all getting ready to enter the job force, and I'm sure you're thinking along similar lines, which is, well, how is generative AI going to change everything? And I guess what I would say there is, again, I think every new technology paradigm that's come along, it's actually created more opportunity, not less, for humans, and that includes you engineers out there, although you're probably not just going to write lines of code, so you might want to think about, a broader set of skills than that. But I just think that the best thing that we can do is help our employee base just embrace the new tools, right? Use them, understand them, think about how they change your work, and come up with new ideas for how you can do your job even better. And that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, let me just touch on that too. I'll start at more of a macro approach. So that working better. Let me touch on that. So let me start with a macro approach. I had the opportunity to teach at Stanford, work with students here gathered in this audience today. One of the things that I noticed was you're operating at an entirely different level than future generations at an intellectual level. You have this thing in your pocket, like literally the mind of humanity sits right here, right? The access to anything and the learning, this tool is so incredibly powerful. I had to go to this place called a library and open these things up called encyclopedias to learn about the Ottoman Empire or some philosopher. Two, I don't know where this came from, but my experience working, I get to speak all over the world to college students. And for whatever reason, you are much more altruistic than any other prior generation. I grew up on the East Coast, kind of Wolf of Wall Street. I'm getting mine. How big a house can you have? How many cars are you driving? Yeah, we still have edges of that, but you're operating at a different level. You're interested in all your own goals, financial goals, life goals, success in life, happiness in life, but you actually care about something bigger and greater than that as a rule of thumb. So there's always going to be bad actors that are around there. I think why I'm here, and probably this panel is here, it's like, hey man, if we can just plant some creative seed, the faith I have in your generation to tackle some of our most pressing problems with this amazing tool that's sitting in front of you and infrastructure is just a huge opportunity.
I think that leads perfectly into one of our last questions. I guess, given the rapid advancements in AI, what specific skills, knowledge areas, or experiences would you recommend Santa Clara University students focus on to thrive in an increasingly AI-driven field?
I'm happy to start. All right, how much time do we have left? No, okay, so I think you might think, okay, AI, technology, maybe that's what I should be studying, but I don't think it's necessarily the case. When you think about how AI is changing things, we're still going to need people that have critical thinking skills, right? And AI is positioned to touch on all sorts of industries, healthcare, finance, law, you name it, right? And I realize college is a time when you have a lot of these big questions and there's a lot of pressure to have things figured out and feel like you're on the right track and setting yourself up for what comes next. And that can be kind of scary. You want to make sure you're making good choices. And so there's probably room for self-doubt. Like, oh, well, if AI is going to replace jobs in 10 years, like, should I still be studying this major? Should I still be planning for this career? And I think, yeah, you absolutely should. You should pursue that with confidence, because the kinds of skills that you develop through education are not just learning facts and figures. You're learning critical thinking, and you're developing your character to be the kind of person who can like lead with integrity and purpose. And AI is nowhere close to being able to replace or pose a threat to any of those things. So I think people should feel confident to study things, even if it's not tech related, because you're still going to land on your feet, even if your job or your future maybe looks a little bit different or has a little more AI in it than you initially expected.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, sorry. I mean, there are things that AI hopefully may not be able to do, at least not in the near term, right? Things that are highly, empathetic, right? I mean, like in complex support, right? I mean, for example, when you ask for a refund, I'll give you a very down-to-earth example, right? Bob may say, no, you can't do this because you passed the date, right? But that's not how you feel on the other side, right? So there's an empathetic approach that AI may not be able to do. So those kind of learnings, what to do with, human experiences, things that, your social activities, your leadership skills, those are things I don't think AI can replace it, but learning those in colleges would be highly beneficial, right? The other piece is really around, the networks you have, right? It's being in college education is a big thing, but building a network of friends, a network of mentors, a network of faculties that can support you throughout your journey is going to be precious, right? You need to continue to do that. I don't think AI is going to take that away from you, right? Last but not least is the question of ethics and morals. As Santa Clara and the Jesuit and a bunch of schools, right? The values that you learn, the ethics and the things that you have, those are values that you carry along across things that you do, and I don't think AI can replace those moral values that you learn out here.
Yeah, I mean, plus one to the last two comments. I'd be remiss not to give a quick shout out to my son Thatcher, who's a freshman here studying computer science engineering. And when he talked about his decision, a lot of those points resonated for why he chose Santa Clara, right? Liberal arts tradition, a Jesuit school and those values, right? Here in the heart of the valley, but with this focus on undergraduate teaching and small class sizes, right? You guys are in a great environment to learn, and really, there's three things that you're supposed to learn, right? One is how to think critically and problem solve. Another is how to communicate clearly. And frankly, another is how to learn. Because your job is going to change every year of your career from the minute you leave here. My wife a decade ago used to get upset because she said, I feel like your job changes every single year. Should I be worried? And my response, and it still is when you should worry? When my job stops changing every year. And so I would just tell you, embrace the skills and the relationships that you're building here. And I think you're going to do just fine.
Yeah, let me give a final thought, and I'll share my personal story. When I went to college, I studied economics, and I took my first computer programming course as a junior, and I loved it. I wanted to major in it, but I wanted to graduate in 4 years, so I ended up getting a minor in computer science. I'm really dating myself on this panel. This is on punch cards writing in Fortran. Anyway, when I took that class, it just captured my imagination as technology in ways that I couldn't even explain, but I'm this is going to be huge. I'm enthralled with it. I've always been intellectually curious. That's the core cardinal talent to have, is be intellectually curious and be able to apply it. And then, spent my time in technology. This thing called the internet came along, studied that. It captured my imagination, as did sustainable energy, as did sustainable materials. So get involved, stay intellectually curious. The things that you do try, do them really well. Don't half-ass anything. And then you may be it's not my cup of tea. That's okay. I like polymath, but with this whole sense that Elon used to preach, which was first principles. Really understand it. When I went to Solar City, I knew nothing about solar. I remember talking to Elon, why are you hiring a solar guy? He's I don't want to build a solar company. I want to build a 21st century clean energy company. That's different than a solar company, right? And even at CruzFoam, I had to learn chemistry, manufacturing, sustainable materials, like all of that. I don't have a degree in that, but like I got really excited to learn that, get super deep and super technical on that. And the world can be whatever you want to make it.
Thank you so much for your comments. I want to open it up to the audience for some questions. We'll probably pass a mic around. So yeah, if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask, raise your hand, and yeah, Cyan will come around.
Hi, I'm Camelia Ciudad. I'm a senior computer science student. So my question to you all was, in light of the major data leaks that have happened recently, what sort of are your concerns regarding artificial intelligence and the dangers it poses to both security and data privacy? And how are you as individuals and your companies sort of working to potentially mitigate those risks and those concerns?
I've been out of the big corp area. CruzFoam's 25 people, but I'll just give you a little bit of an anecdotal response. So, you know, when we were developing all these intranets and extranets and e-commerce solutions for customers in Fortune 1000 businesses, and I remember CIOs were freaked out. Like, what do you mean the server's not going to be running in my facility? What do you mean software's not going to be running in my facility? Like, are people actually going to give their credit card over the internet? So these are definitely big, significant issues. And I believe a lot of the examples the guys were talking about, and Susan were talking about today, it's going to have to evolve, right? So I think it's going to be a lot more complex and a lot more challenging, but I remember, like, no one's going to put their credit card over the internet. Like, it's so insecure. No one's going to put their data running in some Amazon cloud somewhere. So lots of work to do. I think a lot of hard work's already going into it. You're seeing a lot of it's being baked into this infrastructure to start, and we got a ways to go.
Yeah, I think there's people who work for the CIO who could speak far more intelligently than I can about how we're approaching security, but I'll share a little bit at an individual employee level, right? So, I mean, I think the first is, it's funny, I've been at Adobe a decade, and, you know, you have to do all these different trainings, right? You know, just so we stay compliant, you have to understand you can't bribe foreign officials. We do security training. And I have been amazed at the how that training has improved every year in terms of its sophistication. And it's pretty advanced now in terms of spotting phishing emails, you know, other types of scams, the steps that you need to take to protect the company's data, your own, you know, passwords. It's super comprehensive. It's like an hour-long training, and it's really meaningful stuff and in-depth. The other thing I'll say is, as we've adopted Gen AI technology across the employee base as part of our AI at Adobe initiative, it's funny, there are two schools, right? There's the, we want to use this stuff now because it'll help us do our job. But I think the side that's winning more is the, whoa, let's go slow. Let's make sure we evaluate new technologies. I mean, we put Microsoft Copilot through a multi-month through their paces in terms of the security of that, and making sure that our data was going to be secure, and the things that basically our employees were going to be interrogating Copilot with weren't going to be in danger of any kind of leak at all. And so we're really careful as we're adopting the technology ourselves to be thoughtful about how we make sure that we're keeping employees safe and we're teaching our employees to be safe.
I'll wrap up with a question that said, you know, you guys are going to be entrepreneurs, you're building a new company. So it's a question you asked, well, you know, data security, privacy, and AI, right? So if you're doing any sort of technologies in the future, right, especially with AI, there's going to be a level of transparency that's for sure you have to put in place so the user knows what's going on. And then there's a, you know, there has to be a level of user control where the user can say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do that, right? And then last but not least, you have to have a very advanced security layer above that to protect all those two things you have initially, right, related to that. So I think it's going to be a combination of all those three things. Of course, not every company will do well. Of course, there are some mistakes here and there, but if they follow the framework of doing those three things, hopefully we'll try to minimize the exposure, I would say.
I will add that I don't think data security is a specific like AI problem. I think that was always a problem, and it's a hard one, right? It's a cat and mouse game. You try and build up stronger defenses, people will find ways to break through them. Although I do think the problems are related because as there's more interest in AI, data has a lot more value or potential value. And so there's a lot of interest in trying to collect data sets. Even if you don't know what you want to do with it yet, you're like, well, it's nice to have that data there so that we can figure out maybe we could build some AI application to do something with this. And so I do think we're seeing a lot more data collection. And so I think that's how it relates to AI specifically is we just have a lot of data and even seemingly innocuous data that's being collected by like edge and smart devices. When you have enough of that put together, you can read between the lines and find out sometimes sensitive information. And so I think we are seeing developments like with the EU Data Act that passed earlier this year, where, as he was saying, trying to give users more control over their own data, because if it is going to have this kind of value, well, we need to think about it more than just a top-down, someone's collecting data and holding on to it. But in terms of the security thing, that's a hard question. I don't know the answer to that.
And for anyone that asks a question later, can you also, Camila, by the way, you did a great job introducing yourself and also your year. Can everyone else do that also, please? And Simon, if you could distribute the microphone throughout the crowd so people from different parts of the crowd can also get a chance to ask. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Josh. First of all, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it. I'm not a student at Santa Clara. I'm with my co-founder Connor and I. We're starting an AI marketing company. But my question revolves around how AI is monetized. So do you have any early signals in your industries about how people are going to make money on this? Is it going to be with how much people are using, with rates, or is it going to be sort of a platform? I'm just curious how you see this evolving in terms of charging and different business models around it. Thank you.
I can say what's public, at least for Zoom. So Zoom has an AI companion. For those that use Zoom, an AI companion is essentially, helps you sort of during a meeting. It summarizes everything. You can ask questions, who was sleeping in the meeting and not listening, variety of things in there. So it will summarize it, and it gives you the meeting summarization and action items and workflow, etc. So integrated with different things. So that itself was part of the paid platform. So as long as you have Zoom paid, it's included. It's not being monetized. Then there are other vertical applications like the Zoom has a contact center platform. Zoom has a sales revenue acceleration platforms. Those will have AI, and those are being monetized as additional revenue generation on top of those. So I think there are two mechanisms for it. You can include it for some base products, and then you've got vertical solutions that you can monetize.
Yeah, I was going to say you can include it or you can charge extra for it. I think the other part that you guys are probably thinking about is, well, you can charge based on consumption, right? And you can manage your costs. Or you can charge for impact, which is a lot harder, but is potentially a much better way to match your value creation to the value that you're able to extract from the customer. And that's where I'm most interested to see how generative AI plays out.
Hi, my name is Vul Hadimir, Senior Web Design Engineering Major here at SCU. I have a question about the statement that was made in the beginning of the conversation about ads that are indistinguishable from the real content. Do you think this is really beneficial for the end customer, and do you think we really should use AI to get as much money from our customers as we can by deceiving the content and ads?
Since it was my quote, I don't know that's quite what I said. I think what I said was look, when you scroll through your feeds, right, there's the things that you want to follow, and then there's the things that you're bothered by. I think the question is are the things that you're bothered by going to be less bothersome because they're more targeted for you, right? When I scroll through my feed and I see stuff that, I'm a skier. So when I see, ski gear, ski passes, ski mountains that I want to visit, that ceases to feel like an ad to me, although it's still very clear when it's an ad because the platforms make sure that I understand that. it feels more relevant, right? And I think that's what we all want. Like, we all only have so much time and attention. And so you don't want to look at stuff that you're just scrolling by because it's an annoyance. You want to see stuff that you might potentially be interested in. And look, so long as we have ad-based business models, I think that's the reality. I personally would love to move away from ad-based business models. I would rather pay to have no ads in some of the platforms that I interact with, but I don't really have that choice. In fact, some of the ones that I pay for, like Hulu, are inserting ads now. Amazon Prime is doing this too. So as long as that's a reality, I think that companies are going to look, they just want to find their customers. They want to find customers who are excited by their products. And I think that's a good thing. And I do believe that it should always be transparent when something's an advertisement.
Yeah, I think like it's all about giving you optionality, right? In some cases, you may not want any of that, right? It's like, it's all about intent. It's either progressive intent where I'm going and asking something, or if I had something really smart, knows kind of what I like, or I'm interested in tangential things, and I have that option to select that. There's a lot of things that I'm super interested in, and like I just don't stumble upon that anymore. But I'd be fine with some technology that would help expand my thinking, whether it's in a product area, a market industry, or news cycle, or what have you. It basically makes me more productive and is a really powerful tool, again, if it's used properly. But I think the bottom line is like, you should have total control and choice about what you want to see and consume and buy and not buy.
I have some concerns about the personalized ads. I think absolutely there is utility, and lots of us like the utility. Like, if you don't want to spend a lot of time shopping for something and a personalized ad is like, oh no, that's actually what I was looking for. That's perfect, cool, I'm done. That's great. But there are trade-offs to be made, and I think you can see this when you compare what maybe your personalized ads look like to someone else's, and it breaks the illusion for a second, and you realize, right, how tailored it's become. And so there's a risk that we lose some opportunities to explore things and discover things that we might not have otherwise. And it starts to sort of shoehorn us into how the algorithm has sort of made sense of our identity. But we're more complex than that. Any human being is more complex than that. And so how do we trade off the utility, the benefits we can get from personalization with also maybe having a common way of, I guess, relating to one another and shared experiences, or being able to explore and discover things, or even just, not have everything personalized. I think there's some benefits to that as well.
I agree with that. I think that's an indictment of social media as much as it's an indictment of advertising.
I'll give you just like a really crude example. My door latch on my fence went out. It was this sort of special, I went online, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. Obviously, retargeting's happening. I think as that gets smarter and better, I ended up actually finding a super obscure version of this door latch that I was looking for. But there again, like, I was interested in that. I was probably never going to find it on my own. So I think there's some diamonds in the rough here.
So, I mean, the two kinds of personalization, of course, the social media side and the advertising side is what everyone's addressed. But on the customer experience side, I think personalization is going to be the next frontier with AI. I think that's super useful. When you guys call in for help, right, they know that, hey, you've called in 3 times, you've had this issue with this device, you have tried this thing, you have this version. You really speed it up instead of asking you, have you done this before? Have you, what was you done? So I think personalization has value across different segments. Particularly with customer experience, I think there's a lot of value to help, with help.
It's a great call out. And you won't even need to make that call because your AI agent will make that call for you. They'll also book your next vacation and do all manner of other things that you need them to do.
Aubrey, I got a quick question actually. As the VP of Adobe, how much time do you spend scrolling on your phone every day?
My son's listening to this, so probably more than I should. But I do try to set the time control so I get timed out.
What are you talking about? He was scrolling over there.
All right, we got time for one more question. Hi, I'm Anand. I'm a parent as well. My day job is a software engineer. I do sleep in meetings, and Zoom's AI assistant helps me. I also use Copilot. It's like going from crawling to riding electric bike. You can pick up a new language, it's just flying. My side hustle is an artist. I'm a fine art photographer. I do art shows. I'm a power Photoshop user, 25 years. But in the last year, the reactions of public has gone from that is Photoshop to that is totally AI. In the sense that there's a disbelief, and I don't know what that means to creative professionals, and how would an artist address it?
I'm not sure. I want to make sure I understand the question.
There's a question of authenticity of art. Is this something that a human has created, or is this AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes back to how do we make sure that the provenance of any piece of content is just very clear, right? I mean, look, if you buy fine art, right, and you go to Sotheby's or one of the auction houses, right? I mean, the thing that they'll have is they'll have this long list, this enormous amount of paperwork, right? Who was the artist? What year did they do it? What period was that for them, right? Like, who was the patron? Who's owned that piece of art over the years, right? Like, oh, it was in this museum, but then it was with this private collection, but then it was exhibited here. And like the chain of custody is very clear. We have to have that concept now for digital content, right? You need to know what that provenance is, and it needs to be embedded in the metadata, the data that describes the data itself, in a tamper-proof way, so that it just rides along with it. I think that's absolutely critical, and we're hearing similar things from other customers, and they're embracing that approach. And you know what's interesting is when you create something new in Photoshop now, you can append content credentials to everything that you create. So you have it within your power to populate that metadata so that there's no confusion. And so if somebody asks you, you can literally show them the nutrition label that shows, how you created it within the application over what period of time. It has all those details.
My bad. Okay, yeah, I guess that concludes this panel one. If everyone can give a big round of applause to our panelists, please.
Hey, Sean, I want to thank you for hosting us here. It was great to meet some folks I hadn't met before, so thank you so much for putting this together. It was an honor to be here. We're really excited. Could feel the energy out there, so thank you to you and your team for putting this amazing event on.
Ditto, thank you. And Sean, so
Quick note on how I met these people. So, Dr. Kennedy is pretty famous around here for ethics reasons. And then, so Aubrey, his son Thatcher is actually my mentee for Mindset Scholars. Let's go Sioka. And actually, Aubrey and Nick, they spoke once before at Santa Clara University, and I ran after them after they spoke. And I said, hey guys, my name is Sean. I'm a 3-time startup founder. I've done machine learning for a couple of years. I've saved 4 lives, and I've been rejected by 15 girls. Nice to meet you. But before I let you guys all go, I want to share a little story. Charles, are you here? Charles, okay. So on organizing this summit on the night of August 23rd, I called Charles and I was like, hey man, we're organizing this thing. We need our marketing materials done in 5 hours. Can you do it for us? And he was in Beijing, so his time zone was different. And so in 5 hours, he spun up 2 versions of 12, I think, like posters, and gave them to me at 3 a.m. in the morning in Beijing. And and I said, thank you, brother. Leave it all to me. Welcome to the team. Hardik Maheshwari coded up a beautiful website in 48 hours. Perkin Yang produced 5 supreme marketing materials in 5 days. Cyan Jang corresponded with 50 people from 9 groups in the last week. Marty Hendricks spent 20 hours in a weekend preparing for his panel, and Susan Lee whipped up a club financial sheet for a potential sponsor in the hotel room. So, thank you guys all. And none of us are getting paid for this. And the reason we're all doing this is because we want to blaze a trail to the very top of the valley and put Santa Clara University's name out there to get some opportunities and resources for you all. So tonight, in the next 30 minutes, we're going to have a quick networking session. Everybody who's here wants to be here today. Go talk to them, find ideas, find people that challenge you, that inspire you. Food will be provided in the back. There's going to be AI Collab tabling over there, Sioka tabling over there. Talk to each other, enjoy yourselves, and we hope to see you in AI Collaborate meetings in the future. Thank you.
That was very curious about like what kind of technology. Try to be So I just so far I've learned relation Python and I've learned some basic skills.
Sometimes it can feel like there's no way out of treatment-resistant depression. You take one antidepressant after another, they aren't working for you. It's like
I've studied some in AI and some So this is go on the back end. Go on the That's the other one. They want to go low-level programming. I heard it's like a standard C++. Are there any universities? I think so. Basically, what's
My job is not actually studying abroad. He's in Spanish. Oh man. Last weekend she was in London. Weekend before to she was in Stockholm. Yeah. I don't want to be wrong. Oh, man, yeah, I forgot my jacket. Cool. Are you? I'm. I'm just feeling really. Yeah, it works.
Hello, hello. Okay. For everyone that's still here, I want to make sure you guys know we will have a second panel in about 10 minutes, just to make sure you guys know that. Another great panel again as well. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I know, I was back there. I thought it was going to be like, they were going to get up on the podium and like, I'm sorry for the like speak. I totally don't know. I don't think
Mic check. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Really?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Replace your windows and doors now and don't pay anything for a year.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
All right, everyone, let's start coming back to our seats. We're gonna start our next panel in about 5 minutes. You can bring your food to your seats, eat there. Yeah, so let's start heading back. Also, first one back gets potentially an internship opportunity, so.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
I don't, yeah. As you are all the time.
Guys, everyone, we will be starting the second panel pretty soon. Can you please head back to your seats? Specifically the people in this area.
Patrick Ahrens knows what it means to beat the odds. Growing up homeless, surrounded by substance abuse.
What now?
All right, we will be beginning. Let's do a quick. Genuinely don't. All right, everyone, please come back to your seats. We will be starting off with a very interesting program that is being announced today. The applications for this will open pretty soon, and I guarantee you guys are going to want to know about this. If you're the first, if you guys are, I think this is going to be on a first come, first serve basis. So I would highly recommend paying attention to this immersion program that's going to open up later tonight.
Hi, everyone. My name is Colleen Withers. So great to see you all here tonight. I am the director within the Career Center. I lead the career development team. So many of you might have seen the career coaches. We've got Noelle and Vanya, Miriam and Shauna. A lot of them are here to support all of you in your career journey. And I'm here tonight to announce another collaboration with the AI Collaborate Club, as well as the Board of Regents. We received a grant to take 20 to 25 students on a Bay Area AI immersion over spring break. So you have to do more than just raise your hand. Yes, the QR code is locked at the moment so that you all do not apply in this moment. Smart thinking in the front row, though. I see you up here. We are going to take the students over 4 days between March 24th to the 27th, which is your spring break, throughout the Bay Area to take a look at how various companies are using AI and emerging technologies. So far, we'll probably see 2 to 3 companies a day. And we've got some big names already who are agreeing to let us come visit, talk to them, including Adobe, who was here earlier, Okta, Nutanix, HP, Aon, a couple startups. So the list will be finalized when we get closer to it. But for those of you that checked in earlier today with the Career Center, which I believe most of you did because we were hounding you with those QR codes, you'll get an email tonight with the link to the application. And we are targeting juniors and seniors. Unfortunately, the grant is only for undergraduate students, not grad students. So I'm sorry about that. Or you can refresh this QR code after this event and use it that way. But if there's any questions or anything like that, you can email the Career Center. It's just careercenter@scu.edu if you have further questions. But again, if you checked in earlier today, you'll get an email, and feel free to fill out the form. It is on a rolling basis, so as soon as we are full, we are full. So there is no deadline. And I think that's it from me. I'll pass it over. Thank you.
All right, can we get a round of applause for Colleen Withers? All right, our next panel will be led by Marty Hendricks. Marty is a sophomore finance major at SCU, and he has worked for Capital Markets and Voisin.ai. He runs a YouTube podcast, and in his current capacity, he serves as the head of marketing and communications for AI Collaborate. Can we welcome Marty to be our next moderator?
What's up, everyone? How are we feeling? Learning any good things? Made any good connections back there? Had any good food? We enjoying it? We're enjoying the summit? All right, so again, thank you for supporting us, the CoChair Center, and everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for coming out. This is going really well. Thank you guys so much for coming out. All right, I'm going to start introducing our panel. It's an amazing panel. We have so many great people from across industries. We have the music going when they come out. That's right. First, we have Susanna Raj. She is the founder and CEO of AI for Nomads, a social impact organization focused on economic empowerment, digital literacy, reimagining the future of work with a human-centered and life-centered approach. The co-founder of Global South in AI, which includes Global South languages in the research and education of AI. She's using AI to make this world a better place for all of us. Really great stuff. Thank you so much for coming here, Susanna Raj. Next we have Charles Elkan. Charles Elkan is a venture partner at the Fellows Fund with Alex Brand. There's a lot of people here from the Fellows Fund, Mayne. And he is an affiliate professor of computer science at the University of California, San Diego, former AI and machine learning director at Amazon and Goldman Sachs, and founder of FIC.ai, which uses AI for real-time pricing in fixed income investments in the market. He does a ton of research. He's an absolute AI beast. Please welcome Charles Elkan. Next we have Andrew Mayne. He's the founder of Interdimensional, an artificial intelligence service consultancy. It helps companies deploy AI solutions. And he's also the former science communicator for OpenAI and the very first prompt engineer. He's the very first prompt engineer ever. He started that entire thing. If you ever heard that word prompt engineering, that's him. So he's really great. He's also made a lot of books. He's a best-selling author, and he has his very own TV show where he's a magician. Don't trust Andrew Mayne. And he also, I mean, there's so many accomplishments. He was also on Discovery Channel Shark Week, where he made a suit that made electronic signals that signaled to the sharks that he was a fish, and he swam with the sharks. How many people do you know swim with sharks? He swam with the sharks. Andrew Mayne! Last but certainly not least, we have Alex Brand. He's the founding partner at Fellows Fund. There are so many people here from Fellows Fund. He made this happen. It's a venture capital that brings together AI pioneers to offer early stage AI founders the capital, strategic advice, and critical connections that they can use to build category defining companies. He introduced us to all these panelists. Most of them, this would not happen without Alex Brand. If you guys have any good entrepreneurial ideas, he's the one to pitch to, and we're very, very happy to have him. This is a great panel. I'm so excited to speak to all of you. Are you guys excited? All right.
About to be a tag team.
Yeah, Marty, that was great. That felt like a WWE intro. Yeah.
Turn on, Marty. Get on.
Hello.
Check. Can everyone hear me good? All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to ask some questions to everyone. I'm going to ask some individual questions, but if you have any thoughts, if you want to interject, bounce off, feel free. So my first question, a pressing question. We're at a university where AI is always the elephant in the room because teachers don't want students to cheat. But learning how to use AI is becoming indispensable. So what do each of you believe is AI's proper role in the classroom? We can start with you, Susanna Raj.
I believe, can everyone hear me? I believe AI's use in the classroom should be in the service of humanity. I want to center humanity here for now because everyone is talking about AI in terms of profit margins, labor market, economic empowerment, democracy, all of that. But do not forget that AI is about enriching your lives and making sure your lives are better for that. So start learning AI, learning about AI tools and technology that is currently out there, whatever may be your passion space, but center the humanitarian concerns around the globe and how AI will impact that.
That's great. Yeah, it has to be in a context. Great. Alex, Ren.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. I think so. You look at the recent development, like even Nobel Prize actually being, given to some AI scientists, right? So that tells like sooner or later, even in college, students are they're gonna focus more on the advanced thinking. So leave those kind of more fundamental and basic things to AI. Right, so just think about some very basic programming, those repetitive work, right? So the human gonna more focus on the advanced thinking and those kind of things, right? So that being AI is gonna be very powerful and gonna accelerate the whole research process.
For sure. And then we can go to Andrew.
I think it only comes down to the teacher and the student, how they want to use it in the classroom. I'll double down what everybody else said, but I would say that if you guys are waiting to learn inside the classroom, you're not going to make it. I want to know how you're learning with AI outside the classroom, because that is how you're going to accelerate. That's how you're going to be prepared for the future. You are so lucky. You are like the luckiest generation. You guys are time billionaires. You have all this access to all these incredible tools right now. And, your teachers are a wonderful resource, but man, just don't wait.
What in particular? Any good courses out there? Any good ways to go beyond the classroom?
Use it. How many of you are in AI Collaborate? Okay, not enough of you. You all need to join AI Collaborate, okay? Because number one, if you can be in a room full of other people who are using AI right now and learning from them, run into that room, okay? Two, how many of you have used ChatGPT? Okay, it's a good portion of everybody there, okay? How many of you use it to learn? How many of you use it to, go into advanced chat mode and just ask questions? Okay, that's good, more of that. But again, you're gonna learn from your peers, you're gonna learn from your teachers. The questions you ask your teachers outside of class are sometimes gonna be those valuable ones. But I would say, find some friends who are using this stuff, start hanging out, start talking about it, just start using it and sharing your knowledge.
How do you continuously learn right now? Do you still go and try to learn things?
Yeah, I had a meeting with a company that's an AI biotech company. I had to drive into San Francisco. It was an hour drive. I put ChatGPT in advanced mode, and all I did was talk about molecular biology the whole way through, so I understood what it was doing. I am asking the dumbest questions all the time because it's anonymous, and every day, all the time, I'm always learning things, and challenging myself like nonstop. There's so much information out there; it's insane.
I thought I was the only one that did that. The ChatGPT in the car?
Yeah, it tutors me. I ask it questions and stuff. Yeah. And also Google LM, the notebook thing, I throw in tons of stuff on there. I hear something new that I want to learn about. I go throw that in there, do research on it. Like, all these tools are insane. I would have stayed in school if I'd had this.
You wouldn't stay in school if you had this.
Would have stayed in school.
I would have. Sorry. Of course, we got to stay at SCU and learn about things. And then last but not least, Elkan, Charles, what do you believe AI's role in the classroom is in 2024?
Well, I think I have two different answers to that question. The first is, it's a tool, and every new tool, raises educational questions. Of course, each tool is different, but I think there is a reasonable, very concrete analogy with calculators. You can use a calculator, but if you don't know what it's doing, then you're not going to be using it in a way that's going to set you apart, in a way that's really going to let you solve problems. So absolutely use ChatGPT to write papers, but then also understand why it's making the writing choices, and you'll be able to make those choices yourself and be able to edit it and improve what it's writing. So just because something is, when something becomes a tool, then it actually creates differentiation between the people who can use the tool only in a simplistic way versus the people who can use it in a really sophisticated way. Most people nowadays can't drive a stick shift, but occasionally there are some environments out there where driving a stick shift is still a useful skill. The second way I would answer the question is, when you're a student and a teacher or professor asks you a question or gives you an assignment, the implicit social context is that they know the answer and they're testing you to find out whether you know the answer. And actually, as soon as you go into the workforce, if you're an employee, you're getting paid, you're no longer a student who's paying tuition. then the implicit social context is that when your manager is asking you to do some work, you should be able to do that work better than your manager. You should be the expert. Your manager is asking you because he or she doesn't know how to do it and doesn't have the time to do it. So in that sense, when you're using ChatGPT or other new generation AI tools, you're the one asking the questions, you're the one taking the initiative, you're the one showing leadership. And so in that sense, it's almost role-playing for being in the workforce. And it's a difficult transition for a lot of students. They may be very good, they may get very good grades because they know how to give answers that teachers are expecting to the questions that the teachers are asking. But then they get into the workforce and they don't know how to take initiative and they don't know how to be the expert when their manager is not the expert. And so with ChatGPT, it's an opportunity to practice those skills in initiative and problem formulation.
So what's the call to action? How should we change the way we go about teaching higher education and secondary education?
Well, there are some basic things, and of course, I think it's important that different teachers, professors will have different approaches. We shouldn't impose anything top-down, but individually, teachers, professors should be thinking about how they should be adapting their classes and adapting their assignments. One very concrete thing that I like to do is, I do have, handwritten exams with essay questions, short essay questions, and I think it's important to test whether people are able to, formulate, concise and correct answers to questions. And absolutely use ChatGPT to test yourself on that and to learn how to do that, but then be able to exhibit that skill yourself on a handwritten exam with no tools.
Got it. Yeah, I would really love to be in your class. I feel like I learn a lot in it. And a follow-up question that came up about AI in the workplace and how work is changing. How do you guys see the future of work in an AI-driven future? I've heard a lot about ML ops, and what are some tools that might drastically change the way we work? Just how is AI going to change the way we work? I know you've done a lot of work with this, with AI for Nomads, so we can start with you.
I mean, it's very difficult to say how, AI could change how we work. And I believe, Andrew has written a lot on this subject, on how the future of employment is going to be changed and all of that. But my take on that, what we have learned on the ground reality is that people are still, struggling with digital literacy and access to digital tools. So in that way, I feel like we are just sitting here in this AI bubble in Silicon Valley and talking about things that are not making sense to a lot of the global population. So I feel being digitally literate and being AI literate, those two are two separate things. Digitally literate means computer science skills and ability to access the internet. We define it as the ability to open an email account, send emails out, convert PDFs. Even those skills are lacking in most of the populations that we researched about for our work. So becoming digitally literate and becoming AI literate is very crucial now. And you don't need to go to a college, you don't need to go to high school, you don't need any of those things now. It's just, as he said, ChatGPT is available to you. Google is available to you. I mean, the internet is there. Only thing is the access to the internet, and that you should be able to learn on your own. I feel it's going to change the landscape into in a place where we are not doing most of the repetitive work. So if you are, a doctor, there's some of your work could be, this I learned in some article that they said, if you're a doctor, you might be replaced with somebody, more AI advanced, but not a nurse. It's the human-to-human care, in the care industry, that industry is not going to be taken out. So think about where AI could take over and where it doesn't have that capacity. So those are the labor areas that you should be focusing upon.
Human focus on things that can't be replaced by AI.
Yeah, focus on things that cannot be replaced by AI, but you have to be AI literate. That is also important.
Makes sense. Andrew, I know you've also done some work with this, including AI and the operations of kind of companies, or also a lot of the similar things that Susanna does, bring in AI to more people so they know how to be technologically literate and get in the marketplace. So do you have any thoughts regarding these things?
Yeah, I think that one of the most important skills is going to be learning how to continue to build skills. And, one of the things that I spend part of my time is working on how do you deploy this as you can as far globally, because I think there's a wonderful positive future with AI, but will be very disruptive because things will change fast. And I think that the more people who have access to these tools, the better. If we can get 8 billion people on the planet plugged in, online, if they want to be, et cetera, and we have access to their capabilities, what we're able to do is great. And I want to double down on those skills that I think are absolutely important. The things outside of AI, your ability to network, your ability to make friends, who you are with people, your reputation, these things are still going to matter. AI can't replace those things, and those are going to be very important going forward. But I do encourage everybody to think about, your education should not end the day you get your diploma here. Your education should continue through the rest of your life and continue to learn and grow. And AI is one way to do that, but I think to adapt to an AI future, that's absolutely important. It's paramount.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we can talk about how it makes a difference with companies as you look at them from a venture capital standpoint too. How do you value how companies use AI when you look at them? Like, do you look into their operations and make sure they're using AI? Do you make sure they're using the right tools? How do you value the AI that a company uses from a capital standpoint?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, there are two kinds of companies in the market. So one is more like a technology-oriented companies, like building technologies, like models, and infrastructure, right? So to deliver the model, and the second kind of companies are product business. More like product-oriented companies, and focus on applying AI into different verticals. So then I think that this it's a consolidation. The first wave with the AI model is already done. So you look at this OpenAI, Anthropic, XAI, and Llama and Mistral. So those are the potential winners. And then now we are moving into the phase 2, which is a multi-modality, and also reasoning capabilities, right? So those are kind of the second wave of the foundation models. And then we look for the founders. So if you are building a product-oriented companies, like we're looking for deep domain knowledge. Like you really understand the market deeply and how customers pay point. And then also you are really iterate fast. So then for technology company, we're looking for founders actually truly have the critical know-how, right? So like you actually hold the ground truth. Like you think about robotics space, like there are many researchers done this many years ago in the robotics, but their knowledge is a little bit outdated. So the new knowledge is about this learning-based training, like which is also learned from AI models. So what that means, like what things is critical to the success of the company. So we're looking for the founders. Then we build around those capabilities. Yeah. So if you like. For you guys as students, you don't know much about the business, that's okay. So you don't know how to lead people, that's okay, right? So as far as you have the critical know-how for that certain technology or product.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I asked you that because it seems like 2024, everyone and their mom has an AI startup, and just kind of wondering from you especially how to separate the wheat from the chaff. And it sounds like the founder is the biggest factor. Are there any other factors? Is that accurate?
No. So then we started with we look at the market first. Like we always focus on market. So and then second thing is called the founder market fit. Okay. So we identify the great opportunity as with a big TAM, which called total addressable market, like over 10 billion, right? So then the founders, if you truly fit into that opportunity, so then we dig deeper, right? So that's kind of things, the fundamental thing we're looking for.
Market
and the founder market fit.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. We can switch to kind of the more ethical side too. We had some conversations before the panel, kind of getting to know each other a little bit and where we stand, and there was some AI skepticism, there's some AI pragmatism, optimism, and so for the audience, what are the biggest societal benefits from AI? And then I'd also like you to follow that up with the biggest ethical pitfalls you see in AI from your professional perspective. So start with you, Charles.
Yeah. Well, one very big societal benefit will be increase in productivity, which means increase in wealth for everyone, which means especially increase in ability of society to spend resources on human services. And in economics, if one thing becomes less expensive, then you can devote fewer resources to that, and then you have more resources to spend on the things that have not become less expensive. So hopefully, as productivity increases in the sectors of the economy where AI provides greater automation, then in sectors where automation is more difficult, and obvious examples of that are personal care, medical care, teaching, hopefully we'll have more resources to improve quality in those sectors. So the greater productivity in some sectors of the economy is a great social benefit. What are the most important ethical risks? I think that there's an interesting 3 levels of risks from AI. So the first level is things that companies could be doing, or nonprofits even, things that government could be doing, but that as a society we don't want them to do. And that is that we can address with regulation, and companies that are essentially decent citizens want to follow regulation and will follow regulation. And of course, occasionally there'll be mistakes, but essentially, regulation can address that. And then there are the hypothetical scenarios where AI might really go rogue and might really have just change the entire world. And that is very difficult as to really to know what the reality might be. But there's an interesting third intermediate level, I think, which is how bad actors use AI when the bad actors are consciously willing not to follow regulation. And that's the middle ground that I think that we talk about, but we don't talk about enough. A big American social media company is going to follow American regulation, but a bad actor who is either a criminal inside the United States or an adversary of the United States is not going to follow United States regulation, but is still going to be able to use the technology. And of course, when I say United States, I could put in the name of any other country with internal criminals and external adversaries that simply will not follow regulation.
Can't get in the hands of the wrong people.
Every technology ends up in the hands of the wrong people. And the regulation can solve a lot of the problems with technology in the hands of the right people, but not in the hands of the wrong people.
What regulation do you support?
I'm really not an expert on that. I haven't paid very detailed attention. When I worked at Amazon, we paid attention to GDPR, which was coming out of Europe. And again, Amazon is a prototypical example of a company that is motivated and genuinely will try to follow whatever regulation is adopted in all the markets in which it operates. And honestly, as long as competitors are subject to the same regulations, then it's fine from a competitive point of view. It's fine from the point of view of the company, in my opinion. Again, I'm not an expert on this, so maybe I'll let other people give their opinions.
Yeah, Susanna, I feel like you would have a lot to say about this. How do we regulate AI for a more ethical use of it?
I am actually not an expert on AI regulation, but I know a lot of AI ethicists are working on that front, especially in AI policy and data privacy. It can take so many different angles, but everyone reduces the talk of AI ethics down to regulation and down to data privacy and making sure that we own the data, that we are, creators of the data and all of that. But to me, that's just a little bit of a reduction of the whole large talk around AI ethics. But a subset of AI ethics is regulations. There's a lot of, laws that are currently on the books, and that some of the laws have already also has been passed. But what I am against is mostly the lobbying from the industry side into shaping how regulation is being done currently. The actual AI ethics regulatory advisory board organized by current President Biden has a lot of the industry peoples who are on the other side of the AI ethics, talk. The people who are actually part of the problem, and having them on the board itself is a conflict of interest, and why we don't have that kind of a talk when it comes to regulatory boards and AI ethics boards is one of the concerns that I would like that everyone as a public has to raise questions about.
So I want to raise a question though, because I don't know anybody in AI who's anti-ethics. And when I think about companies, I think that when you put together a board and you're trying to figure out policy, I think you want to have as many stakeholders as possible. And I could be an NGO or a nonprofit and say that, well, hey, I'm not a company in this, so my position should be greater than somebody else's. But these companies or those organizations are often very well funded and have their own idea. And I think my issue with regulation comes down to this, and I am very much like living in a country with laws, to make it very clear. We sometimes think of regulation as being a thing that means that a thing will not happen. Regulation serves a goal. We want to prevent a harm. The problem can be is sometimes that regulation can actually encourage the harm. As he spoke up, you can have a regulation here, and Europe can say, hey, listen, we don't want you to train a model with X amount of compute, which, great, Europe will not train that model. California might decide they're going to do that too, but guess what? China's not going to do that. Other countries aren't going to do that. And also that rule that they put in place for trying to measure the amount of compute you did was dumb because there are many other ways you can go around it, and there's a lot of downstream effects from it. My goal is how do we prevent the harm? And we have to figure out what we think the harm is going to be. If we think some people think the harm is just disruption and is economic disruption, and they look at regulation as a way to prevent that, that is a conversation to be had. But when it comes to we're saying, are we worried about rogue AI, et cetera, that's a more technical conversation. My frustration's been when I speak to some of the people who are not working for the government or not working for corporations, but advising on some of this, they're technically not understanding this. And we've had a big disruption that's happened in AI recently where a number of people who are safety experts, quote, in AI, you could be a safety expert for a number of years because it was all fan fiction. It was all Harry Potter, make-believe, whatever. Then these things became real. We have models that are performing at exceptional levels. We have O1 by OpenAI, which is performing superhuman at certain levels, which means that an AI expert now needs to know how to use AI. If somebody's development environment of choice is a word processor, I don't know what you can contribute. If you actually know how to build it, it's great, and that doesn't mean the discussion should be limited to that. But a lot of policies coming from very crazy places. And I think we have to figure out what are we trying to prevent.
Yeah, what are some specific?
Yeah. So I'm a little bit on that. I fully agree with the panels. And so I think the reason I feel like a lot of the regulation is actually related to consumer right. And but general AI innovation, or maybe the next generation of consumer AI is yet to come. So and then we don't see new generation of consumer AI-based consumer apps yet, right? So that's a big thing. So that's also, so some of the students ask me, what will be the biggest opportunity for them, right? For you guys. So I think that's a consumer space. So think about Facebook, think about Instagram, many years ago. So then you guys are young, right? So you guys know the social needs of the next generation, the young generation, right? So this is a great opportunity for you guys, right? So but I do want to ask a question. So how many of you actually are building startup right now? Okay. How many of you actually consider it to build a startup in the future? Okay, thank you.
Need more hands up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
the Yoga Center could help out with that.
Yeah, that's so. To summarize my point is I think anything you just see Meta AI applying implement some AI into their social apps. That's just the beginning.
And I do want to add something too, which is that I want to see more hands next time. How many people want to build something? Because, I had a conversation with Susan earlier about the fact that she saw a need in something that she felt wasn't being addressed and didn't just say, hey, I'm going to write a blog post about it, which is kind of what I do. She built a company to go solve for this problem. And I think that everybody here, you may think, oh, I'm not a computer science major. I don't really know how these things work. It doesn't matter. You can learn enough or start to understand and talk to people. The world is never going to run out of problems to be solved. What we need is people to solve them and to use these tools. So every one of you has a capability. Think of yourself as problem solvers. That's what you're going to go out in the world to do.
Yeah, I guess on here, I want to bounce off that and talk about AI startups. What can people leverage right now, AI-wise, or maybe non-AI-wise, to get on the ground running and start maybe a business with all these new tools, and how do they do that in this new environment? I feel like you would have a lot of expertise on this, Alex, working with a lot of different startups.
Yeah, I think so we really have three waves of the AI right now. So the wave one is actually the first wave is generative AI, so generation of different kind of content. So we call it focus on content generation. So the second wave actually is like an agentic workflow, so like autonomous agents, right? So that's what's happening right now. So as Andrew mentioned, so like O1, right, GPT-O1 started this kind of a process to import reasoning capabilities, right? So then third wave is actually a more deep, like a discovery. Drug discovery, like robotics, right? So bio, that's more like a further way, like 5 to 10 years away, right? So I think those are the opportunity everywhere. So as I mentioned, content generation, every time if you have a new way of content generation, there will be new kinds of social media, right? So, but we don't see that new kind of social media yet. So that's the kind of company we're looking for every day, right? So, and then the robotics. So in the future, the number of the robotics is getting more than the humans, right? More than the humans population, right? So I think that's another opportunity, big opportunity, right?
Absolutely, and I had also a question I was running. Have you seen any particularly weird, or what's the most interesting pitch you've ever received?
It's really that's I have been struggling a lot on that. So because I don't see that many crazy ideas. So if you have one, just pitch me. Okay.
Okay.
Who did I speak to who's working on a project for doing testing in Tanzania? I think that was what we mentioned. And I talked to a couple students, they talk about their project as they want to make it easier to do, how do you use phone to phone and be able to do testing stuff. Not everything you think of has to be a business. Some of these things you can do can just be a community good. You know, right now there's a lot of people within 5 square miles of here who would love to learn how to use ChatGPT, some single moms, grandmothers, people like this that would love to learn how this stuff. You can think about projects you can do to help people relating to AI. It doesn't have to be business. It can just be literally being, how can I help somebody else do something they couldn't do before?
That's true. Actually, that's one of the things that we struggle with, how to explain a simple concept, anything, to have somebody, it's this way, okay, everyone can refer to YouTube University, but you know, not everyone has access to YouTube University. Just having some kind of an app or some kind of a tool in which you can learn a skill, and the populations like, you know, your grandmothers and your parents, and even those who are a little bit older than us, who are not growing up in the digital, you know, era like us, helping them navigate those things, that itself is an area where you can build. A lot of startups can come up in that area if you can think about it. Those are like some of the, you have to think about the social impact of your, whatever your passion area is, and then you can find a niche area within that to build a startup. And maybe he will hear more crazy pitches after that.
Maybe a couple of comments about the concept of social impact, and this actually goes back to regulation. And maybe I'll try to say some things, a couple of things that might be a little bit controversial, and maybe we can make the panel, you know, exciting by having some disagreement. I think when it comes to social impact, when it comes also to regulation, you know, never underestimate the possibility of unintended consequences, and never underestimate the possibility of people finding loopholes. And you know, spam email, unsolicited commercial email has been a problem almost since the beginning of email. And you know, over many decades, there were many attempts to devise regulation that would prevent spam. And none of those attempts actually succeeded. The only thing which actually succeeded in making spam, you know, not be a terrible problem is technology, and specifically machine learning, specifically AI for filtering messages and identifying automatically which ones you would be interested in and which ones are spam and need to go into the spam box of your email client, which most people never even look at what's in their spam box. So, you know, that's a very good example from the history of digital technology of where regulation never succeeded, and the only solution to the problem was a technical solution. Another example of you know, unintended consequences, it's pretty clear, the evidence is quite strong that there's a mental health crisis among teenagers and young people, and the evidence is pretty strong that social media is one of the fundamental causes of this mental health crisis. And it's not something that anyone anticipated at the beginning of social media, and it's not something even now that social media regulation would fundamentally counteract, because it seems, I'm oversimplifying, the fundamental problem is that when people use social media, then they post selfies of themselves. They essentially only post the good news for themselves. They post themselves, you know, looking happy and successful. And then that makes the people who are consuming it, you know, feel unsuccessful and unhappy in comparison. And you know, it's very difficult to imagine how you would, you know, write any regulation that people are not allowed to use social media to post happy things about themselves. And nobody anticipated 20 years ago that this was going to be a major cause of worsened mental health. And of course, none of the major social media companies, you know, they never wanted to, you know, worsen the mental health of users of any age. So I think when it comes to thinking about regulation and social impact, yeah, like that, you can never underestimate the possibility of unintended consequences and of loopholes. And then what I was saying before, you know, the bad actors who, you know, have, you know, negative intent, and will not care about whatever the regulation says.
Yeah, thanks. And I get ads for this company. I get ads for this company called Opal. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's exactly what you're saying. The private sector kind of taking care of a problem instead of the public. It's a company, and they run like a subscription model to get you off social media, to like limit your usage. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Well, yes, but my intuition is that the people who will adopt this are not the people who would benefit from adopting it. But I would follow up on what you say. You're a private company. One of the greatest inventions in many centuries of history is for-profit companies that are essentially making a product or service, and then customers are paying for it, and then the company can use those resources to expand. And if the product is actually providing a benefit to the customers, they will pay for it. And if it's not providing a benefit, then the company doesn't succeed. So if you're a for-profit company and you have a product or service that is of social benefit, then you pretty much have built in a way of expanding, a way of providing this benefit to more people. Whereas the dilemma for many nonprofits is that the more successful they are, the harder it is to stay in business, because they're not obtaining the revenue that they need to continue providing the product and service.
Absolutely. And then any closing thoughts before we go to the audience questions?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think that's another great opportunity to think about. Like, I am convinced of the incredible potential for current AI, and I even talk about future AI, but also these things can also be very capable in persuasion and other things that are going to have an effect on us. And I don't think the solution's going to be we're going to have a persuasion regulation. That would be crazy. I do think you have to think about, okay, well, maybe every time I go out to make a transaction, I have my own AI. Maybe I pay for a service for some company to help me protect myself, like I do with insurance, like I do with attorneys, like I do with these other things. And I think we need to think about AI not necessarily being a one-sided thing where it's going to be you having to deal with the corporation that has the AI, when there could be other entities, companies, et cetera, that are providing those services that benefit you and are incentivized towards providing you that. And I think about that, a future where it's not just 3 companies that are providing AI, where there's a lot of different kinds of AI products.
I like that idea. So here's an idea for a consumer-oriented company. Just like you can have an emotional support animal, you could have an intellectual support AI, which would be like a parrot standing on your shoulder and warning you when you were reading an advertisement that was offering something that was not credible, or otherwise just protecting you from the persuasive AIs that were trying to persuade you to do something that in fact was not in your interest.
Yeah, I want to say I want to provide a framework for you to think about the AI, the potential of AI. So you think about look at the history. Like there's never a convergence of the 3 things, like low cost, personalization, and high volume. So you never see those 3 things metrics converge until AI, right? So AI being able in the future. So either you build AI, or either you do the personalization of AI. For the customer experience. So no matter for consumer or enterprise, right? So then you think about if we do build the AI models, so then we probably customize AI models and the whole customer experience for insurance industry, right? So that's more like a personalization, right? So just choose either one, right? So you want to either train your model or either you want to work on the personalization, right? So that's my angle.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll add to that too. Training, a thing that matters a lot now is if you have your data, like you talked about, if you have deep domain expertise in an area, it doesn't matter if you're going to go to Google or OpenAI or whatever. If you have a bunch of data, you can train a model to do a lot of capable things. Like 2 years ago, everybody was like, we need to have our own foundational model. No, you need to have your own data, and you can take your data a lot of different places and build your own capabilities.
Yeah, and I do have experience in that because as co-founder of Global South in AI, especially within languages, all the global south languages, finding the data, having your own data, and low resource data and making up data sets to train your models. I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges we are facing right now. We just finished a project in South Sudan for a language called Bari, which is a low resource language. And we are curating or making up all our own data to train the existing LLM models to be trained in Bari language, which is super hard. I mean, those are the things that, I wish some of you could work on instead of the other more glamorized problems here. It's not that, it's the movies or, the literature, everything that is available there, we are using it. And we are asking people to write poetry in their own languages and write their blogs and then train that. So we are creating the data, curating the data, and collecting data. And that is a challenge.
Awesome. All right, that wraps up my questions. It is time for some audience questions. We got Cyan going around with the microphone. I know some of you probably had some pressing questions. We can't wait to hear them.
Hi, I'm Neil. I'm a bioengineering junior. I had a question for Andrew. OpenAI and a lot of the other large language models, they use a ton of data. So you'll see them hypothetically scraping YouTube videos or Reddit to search for more data. Do you see OpenAI, given that they're creating content that has value, potentially selling that, people use ChatGPT, do you see OpenAI and having a responsibility to compensate the people who are coming up with the data that you're building this model off of?
So, just today, they just made a deal with Hearst Media for doing basically just that. They've been making deals with a number of different media companies and compensating them and working out long-term deals to pay for them, particularly because the data that's useful now is news, things like this, events, well-written stuff. I think people kind of think that a lot of they're going to want my post from X or whatever. That's not quality data anymore. That was useful for learning grammar and language rules and stuff like that, but not really learning about the world. So the focus is going towards much higher quality expert level data. And so, yeah, they are already been in the process of working with compensation strategies with organizations, individuals and stuff for that kind of data.
Thank you.
That was a great question.
How's it going? My name is Cole. I just had a question about, you guys are probably familiar with RAG architecture. Do you guys think that...
I wrote the first RAG tutorial for using semantic search with GPT-3.
That's awesome. Do you guys think that the context window for these big LLMs is going to increase, or do you think that there's going to be some sort of big RAG business that is created out of this? And
So
how do you see that coming in?
I'll jump in because I spent a lot of last deep dive in this. So RAG, what that means for everybody is basically, let's say if I want to search for information about some medication for my dog or something like that, and I have a database filled with 10,000 different potential medications, and I want to find one that matches the condition. Retrieval augmented generation, which the term didn't even come out until November of 2020. We already had semantic search, and NLP had been doing it for 30 years. But anyhow, the strategies in which you find that data, an LLM means you can take, let's say, use fuzzy search and find 20 items that kind of closely match and throw that into the context window and let it fit. It works, but it's not really a smart strategy. What you really want to do is take your data and you want to create it sort of in a more context. I called it context. Anthropic just had a paper out where they called it, I think, something else, but basically make each data a little more discrete and understand what's going around it. So don't just throw your data in there and expect it to find the piece you want, because sometimes an example is if I have a book and it says in a passage, in one paragraph, he then walked into the room and said hello to her. Well, if I don't know what he is or her is or whatever, because there's no context, that's useless if I'm searching for a name. So there's better strategies for basically formulating your data. Context windows are going to keep getting bigger. We're at a 2 million context window, I think, on Gemini Flash. But the problem is right now they're really just kind of doing really good retrieval. But yeah, context windows are going to increase. They're going to get way more efficient. And the models are actually going to be better. You're going to be doing more low rank adaptation training. There's a lot of capabilities these problems are going to be solved.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just had a question about just robotics and AI in general. And what do you think are the biggest steps that kind of need to happen in order to sort of have AI really integrated into robotics and have that like all around the world in our everyday lives?
So we have been talking to lots of robotics companies. So actually, we started to invest in most robotics company early this year. So I think that's a good question. Really the biggest issue is really lack of data, right? So like because we don't have this kind of copilot model, just like a self-driving car space. So right, self-driving car space, so you can drive and collect data, so then train the model. But in the robotics space, there's no such a model, right? So then people really want to deploy the first maybe 10,000, 100,000, 1 million robots. So being able to collect data, no matter it's in the warehouse, in home service, right? So or maybe grocery, different verticals. So the things like you want to train a good foundation model, you need a ton of data. That's a thing. So then you have to have a big deployment. And the second issue is the cross embodiment learning. So like let's say we play a YouTube video. So you see that person open a bottle or something. The robot is being able to learn from that and open bottle itself. So that's kind of the cross embodiment learning is also very challenging right now. So I think those two are the bigger barriers right now. So it's like a ton of people are trying to solve this. So you look at the PhD students in some good robotics labs. So lots of them are leaving and launch their own robotics companies.
We had one of the things that was kind of really fun was at OpenAI is we had a trained assistant to watch people playing Minecraft. And Minecraft is a great example of trying to figure out how does an AI act when it's embodied in a world. And that was all of a sudden the thing figured out how to build diamond axes and stuff like this. And so like you said, robotics is about to go through a big, huge bump. You're starting to get people who are now going back to things like reinforcement learning, et cetera, how to convert virtual environments to real environments and stuff. I think by the end of this decade, to see an autonomous thing walking around, whatever, doing a lot of tasks, I think is very likely.
Any other thoughts, robotics? I definitely agree, and I think to get a little bit more technical about it, currently in a large language model, we start with tokenization, and you can think of a token as being like a syllable, and the model has hundreds of billions of words of training data to learn the meaning of each of those tokens. And then if we have a vision language model, then we're doing tokenization of the visual input also, and then the model is learning the meaning of visual tokens and putting them in the same space as the tokens that come from language. And so the model has learned the relationship between, say, the word robot and then things that look like robots that are in images or videos. But that's still just vision language. That isn't vision language and the three-dimensional real world. And it isn't vision language and action in the three-dimensional real world. So what we need is a foundation model which is putting the physical world and putting the visual world and putting the linguistic world all into the same space of meanings, where meanings are vector embeddings, and we need enough training data to train that model. And we can get large quantities of training data for language. We can get large quantities of training data for images. It's already more difficult to get large quantities of training data which let us make the association between the vision and the language. And then it's even more difficult to get the large quantities of training data which let us make the association between the physical three-dimensional world and the actions in that world and the vision and the language.
So yeah, another thing to add on is this hardware issue. So hardware issue also standardize the hardware setup. So think about self-driving cars. The data you collect is going to be camera data, so the very standard RGB data, right? So, but in robotics space, there are too many dimensions of freedom. So like you have different arms, right? So you have fingers. So there's too many, it's not the standardized hardware setup. So like people trying to focus on one area, so they build that kind of very standard hardware setup. So then being able to collect enough data and train a model to have that kind of vertical AGI. So that's what we call it. So focus on one vertical, so being able to, like self-driving cars, like we can see it's already achieved AGI for self-driving car space, right? But robotics is more like 7-8 years ago of the self-driving car space.
Yeah, great. Any other questions?
One more question, then I think we're going to be out of time.
Hi, I just really want to thank you really quick. We have like 5 more minutes, so thank you for taking time out of your day. My question relates to, we've been talking a lot about startups and about integrating startups into a lot of daily lives and how startups can really take AI to the next level. But my mind harkens back to like maybe last century where Bell Labs was sort of like the monolith of R&D. And so my question is, has the research and development and application of AI really moved over to startups as opposed to monolithic like R&D research labs? Has it really moved over to this sort of really small, tight-knit group pushing one really good product forward?
I'll throw in it. I want to hear. So do you know who probably one of the biggest pioneers in startups was probably Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison made a multiplex telegraph. He was a telegraph operator, not a wealthy man, but he figured out a way to increase the throughput through the telegraph. He took that money and he created Menlo Park, which Menlo Park, his lab there, and produced a number of things, and maybe copied a few things, but was basically the template that I think we followed forward. So I'd say in some ways we've kind of gone back to that, where a really brilliant innovator comes up with something and we go to that.
And I think that was Menlo Park, New Jersey, not Menlo Park, California. Am I right?
Yes. That's with the Menlo Lab, yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry if anybody mistook me for thinking he came to California, which he wouldn't have, but yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I was a grad student, I had an internship at Bell Labs in Murray Hill, the main Bell Labs. And in fact, I had another internship at Xerox PARC, here in Palo Alto. And, both of those have rather gone by the wayside. I think there's always been a dynamic, a dialectic between large companies and startups, and you're seeing it now. Transformers were invented at Google, a large company, and when AT&T was the dominant company in telecommunications, it was at AT&T that the transistor was invented, but it wasn't AT&T that created Intel, which was a startup, of course, at its beginning. So there's always going to be, relationships and competition and successes on both sides between large companies and startups. And as Jeff Bezos at Amazon, says often, no company lasts forever. If the current crop of large companies, only the paranoid survive, is what Andy Grove said at Intel, and he's right.
I don't believe so. Currently, this AI innovations heavily rely on startups. So there are three ways to create value. Three areas to create value. One is the customer experience. So second is infrastructure, and the third one is like a technological development, which means AI models. So startups are really good at fast iteration on customer experience. So then you're able to handle long tail needs and different kind of customers. So and then that's a great space for startup to get in and to be disruptive. So but if you're in the infrastructure on our model space, you have to fill the gap. If there's something new coming up and the big companies are slower, so you're able to quickly get in and build something to fill the gap, right? So I think big companies, small companies, startups, they play different roles in this ecosystem.
Yeah, as a startup founder, I can tell you that research is a primary part of what we do, because you have to research and you have to experiment. You build, you experiment, you fail, and then you research again. So, but the one thing that is lacking from all the monolithics that is out there is the money. but we make up for that with hours of labor. And so I feel like it would be nice to have a mix of both, but I would say right now it's evenly distributed here and there, both between the big tech companies and their R&D departments and the startup industry that is also trying to, disrupt some of the technologies out there.
I'd say like one of my favorite products lately is Cursor, which I use for code development, which is great. I was very skeptical because I, helped work when Microsoft was working on GitHub Copilot, and I thought that was a great product. And I'm like, how are like 5 guys going to do something better than this? But then I realized they're awake right now. They're thinking about this product. 9 o'clock tonight, they're going to be working on it. The product managers probably on, Copilot are probably going to be not thinking about their product. And that's one of the advantages you can have is if you're thinking about your product when the other people have gone to bed or moved on or doing something else, that's an advantage that comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
All right, I think that was the last question. Guys, thank you so much. And on startups, I'm a startup guy too, and we have 4 entrepreneurs here, FIC AI, Interdimensional, Fellows Fund, and AI for Nomads. And there's just so much expertise and know-how transmitted to me and the audience tonight, and I think it was great. Maybe right before we wrap up, do you guys want to plug anything or any call to action for the audience? Go left to right.
Let me chime in. So I just now, so some students asked me questions like, what's my advice? So my advice, the first thing is you have your first affiliate, like join this AI club, right? So to have your first AI project and then learn from the lessons, right? So then as you learn more and more lessons in school, so then one day you want to launch your startup after your graduation. So then you're gonna be more successful, right? So that's kind of the things that I want to advise. I want to offer.
Yeah.
Learn to define your problem very well. Learn to articulate and define your problem statement very well. That's an important skill set that's critically missing in today's population. And we have all been told, in the industry, there is like this famous saying, like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution for the problem. But you don't go to your doctor with, a broken leg and say, if your doctor says that to you, why don't you come to me with a solution? It doesn't work like that. So you have to, when you're, at a physician's office or anywhere in your life, if your ability to articulate your problem is so good, the solution is already hidden in that. So learn to articulate your problems and focus on that.
Certainly want to double down when you said make things. Like when I would interview people at OpenAI, I'd ask, what would you have made? And if it was a person non-technical world, maybe they worked on, a nonprofit that was helping people with dealing with some sort of disability or something. If they've made a thing, that was always impressive to me. I think is make your feed your friend. Like, don't put it like between YouTube and X or whatever you're on. Like if you follow a lot of cool science stuff, a lot of cool technical stuff, then that's what you're going to get. If you follow a lot of stupid stuff, that's what you're going to get. But if those are your sources for information, then think about what you're, consuming.
Well, I think I agree with what we've just been hearing, but I would maybe add, think different. How can you take initiative? How can you be independent? How can you not follow the crowd? And right now the crowd is into generative AI, but if one thing is certain is that in 5 or 10 years' time we'll be talking about something different. And there are people out there, working on things, passionate about things, who are being, neglected and misunderstood. And some of those people in 5 years' time or in 50 years' time are going to turn out to be the pioneers. So just be an independent thinker.
Yeah, I
Think
second that.
different. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I said I second that.
For sure. Think different.
It wasn't very independent though.
What a great closing remark. We're going to do our closing remarks now. Thank you guys for listening to the second panel. We had some great conversations. Thank you guys so much. And thank you guys for showing up to listen.
All right, can we get another round of applause for the panel? Actually, both panels. You guys are all amazing. As the summit draws to a close, I want to take a moment to thank all the people involved. Specifically, let's start with the guests and panels, and the panelists. Your knowledge and insights really brought life to the summit. Without that, we wouldn't know where we would be. Thank you for engaging with all of us as students and as the next generation of innovators. Our sponsors, the Sioka Center, the Miller Center, and the Career Center, without you guys, this would have all just been an idea in our heads. You guys helped make this from an idea to something that actually happened, and it's unbelievable, and I thank you so much for all your help. Finally, the board of AI Collaborate, you guys, that was insane. I don't know how we pulled it off. It's crazy. It was an idea in the summer, and someone's in Sahana's head, who's now in France, and we all pulled together and made it happen, and that's crazy to me. Finally, I want to really leave you with a reflection on AI, the reason we're all here today. AI is not just a technological revolution. It's an interdisciplinary one. It thrives at the intersection of diverse fields, whether that be engineering, ethics, philosophy, or the arts. AI requires collaboration across all disciplines because it challenges the opportunities. The challenge and opportunities it presents are too great for any one perspective. Today we heard from 8 different perspectives. Now you all have your own perspective. You guys have all learned from the panel, and you guys have your previous experience with AI, or even your experience of not using AI in a world that is emboldened by AI. You should take this perspective and go out and have conversations of your own. You'll never know what impact your words will have on someone, whether that just be a conversation with friends or up at a panel like this. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll leave you with the message to go out and learn more about AI, go out and talk to people about AI to see what you can change. Thank you all for coming, and good night.